Watching the 1980s turn into the 1990s was a magical time for entertainment. Nintendo and Sega were at war, and home consoles were selling strong, invading homes everywhere. The arcade industry was reaching the height of its popularity, and the quarters of our parents were flying into these machines. Some of the most beloved arcade games were beat-em-ups, where friends could just get together and wail on a barrage of enemies. At the time, Capcom was known to make quality games, and in 1989 they unleashed the massively popular Final Fight, which was inspired by Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. It defined how to make the perfect beat-em-up experience. The controls were smooth, it had a memorable cast of characters, and the soundtrack was awesome. And if anything in the video game industry gets popular, there will always be others trying to get in on that success too. Sega's answer to Final Fight? Streets of Rage. Known in Japan as Bare Knuckle. A beat-em-up similar to Final Fight, yet with its own personality. In 1991, Sega brought this arcade beat-em-up style experience exclusively to their home consoles, and it's one of the games I remember most fondly. The city was a happy, peaceful place, until one day an evil criminal syndicate led by the mysterious Mr. X took over the city. The syndicate took control of the government and the police force, and a crime wave swept the city. And in all this chaos, 3 police officers decided to take to the streets and kick some ass. Adam Hunter, Axel Stone, and Blaze Fielding. All trained in different fighting styles and all ex-cops. I always like to pick Axel though because his hobby is playing video games. The clear choice in my opinion. The story in Streets of Rage is definitely a product of its time. The whole situation just reminds me of all the action movies that were coming out in the 1980s. Like Stallone's Cobra. The entire city is covered in crime and a lone cop sets out to destroy it. This game could not have come out at a better time. Right when you start the game, the first thing that hits you is the music. Just listen to it. A lot of Sega games had such a badass soundtrack for some reason. The gameplay is standard beat-em-up gameplay. It involves you walking from left to right, beating up everyone in your way. You can jump, you can hit, and you can get 1 special attack per life, unless you pick up some more. And the special attacks look awesome. A police car comes speeding in, a cop aims a bazooka out the window, and fires a rain of chaos onto your enemies. I always try to save these for the boss fights since they take a nice chunk of health away from them, and later on in the game, the bosses have several health bars that you have to drain. Speaking of boss fights, you know exactly when one is coming because this ominous music starts playing. Listen to that beat, that music is so good. I apologize if I repeat myself in these reviews sometimes, but I love to point out when a video game has awesome music. And this one sure as hell does. And you also find weapons on the ground such as knives and metal pipes, which are my absolute favorite. You can swing this pipe like a baseball bat, sending your enemies flying through the air. And the enemy designs look really familiar and are obviously directly inspired by characters from other sources. These guys look like something right out of Final Fight. And there's this chick with a whip and a dominatrix outfit. I mean, come on, that's right out of Double Dragon's playbook. WWF's Ultimate Warrior makes an appearance. A mix of Freddy Krueger and Sabretooth from the X-Men. Streets of Rage is one of those games that trick you into thinking that it's easier than it actually is. There's 8 stages total, and the first couple of stages are fairly easy with enemies posing little challenge. But don't be fooled. As the game goes on, it turns into a test of willpower and patience. I started running low on lives and continues around level 5. And I knew that game over screen was right around the corner. Enemies start coming at you from multiple sides, jumping around and just pummeling you all at once. It's infuriating, and unfortunately, I'm a glutton for these kind of games. On top of that, my gamer OCD prevents me from quitting until I beat it. Oh look, I ran out of continues. There's the game over. After level 5, it's an absolute free-for-all where the game starts getting incredibly harder. But there is a saving grace in all this. Usually, I don't like to use cheat codes because it diminishes your badassery as a gamer. But fuck it, use it. It's not worth going through the stress. Go to the main menu, hold down A plus B plus C plus right on controller number 2, while pressing start on options on controller number 1. It's easier to do this if you have 2 people. You can now select how many lives you start with and which stage to start on. I will say this though, I did not skip any levels. As the game goes on, you'll regularly start encountering enemies that were once considered bosses, just frolicking around levels. Level 7 is one of my favorite ones too, and one of the least stressful. You're on a rising elevator and you can just constantly throw enemies over the edge. It's hilarious. It's a nice break from all the annoying enemies that you're forced to fight throughout the game. When you fight the fat guys that breathe fire, they come running at you, and it's easy to accidentally throw them when you're just trying to get a punch in. But you can't throw them either because they'll fall on you and take your health away. These assholes with the torches constantly move around, and it's extremely difficult to hit them until you punch the torches out of their hands. The wrestlers come flying at you at light speed and clothesline you. It's best to try and grab these guys and knee them in the nuts over and over. And when you get to level 8, the final stage, the game throws everything it has at you. But nothing, I repeat, nothing compares to the annoyance found right before the final battle. You run into 2 women that look exactly like Blaze, by the way, except they're wearing black clothes instead. I really don't think that I've ever come so close to launching my controller at the screen. Every time you get near them, they jump away over and over and over again, driving you insane. But they'll keep jump kicking you and draining your lives incredibly fast. And if you die and get game over and use that cheat code to come back to this level, you have to do this entire stage again, going through all the enemies they throw at you again. I may just be a little emotional right now, so I'm not sure if this is necessarily accurate, but I think this one part here may have pissed me off more than Castlevania Bloodlines did. Here's the trick I discovered after dying over and over again. You have to coax them to jump at you, then back up real quick and go in with a combo as fast as you can, and hope that you can do enough damage to wipe them out before they wipe you out. But the stress levels don't stop there. With your lives probably already running low, in the next room you finally run into Mr. X, and he's a complete dick. He gives you the option to join him, which affects the ending of the game depending on what you pick. But after almost ripping out whatever hair I had left after going through this torture, no, he needs to die. He sends wave after wave of enemies into the room. He can't even fight his own battle. This is one of the biggest pet peeves of mine in video games. Bosses that send in minions. And then he dashes around the screen firing a machine gun. And just like Dracula in Castlevania, Mr. X was one of the most satisfying enemies to defeat. Bitch. Streets of Rage. You walk on the streets, and as the game progresses, you start feeling rage. I've never seen a game with such a perfect title. Don't get me wrong, although it's an incredibly frustrating experience, it's not due to bad game design at all. In fact, it's a fantastic game that's a shining example of the greatness that was available on the Sega Genesis, and it really forces you to push your skills as a gamer in order to succeed. I love it. If you've never played it before, go play it. If you have, go play it again. A quick shout out to Sebdoom, who gave me permission to use his remix of the Streets of Rage theme throughout this review. Make sure you check out his channel and give him some love. The link is in the description down below. And remember to like, subscribe, sign up for notifications, and check out my social media links. This is Fabian, I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.